Ever catch yourself thinking, well, if only I'd done things differently? Yeah, same here. Regrets have a way of just creeping up on us, making us relive things over and over and wishing that we could go back and change them. But lately, I've been asking myself a few things like, what if regrets aren't just things that we need to feel bad about? What if they're actually one of the best things we can do to grow? So today I want to talk about that, how I've learned to stop letting regret weigh me down and instead use it as a tool to move forward. And maybe you'll relate, or maybe this will help you rethink some of your own regrets. Either way, let's talk about this. Now, today I am filming from my home office that I share with John, my hubby. We've just got a few house projects going on, and if you've ever lived through like home projects and renovations, you know how it goes. So I'm just having to find a quiet place to film. So it might be an adventure, but I'm going to just roll forward. The wind is also howling here, and I have got allergies so bad that I'm constantly coughing. So you're going to notice I'm going to have to pause the video several times because I've been coughing for 3 days. But I really wanted to get a video out, and I want to talk about something that's really important to me and something that I'm actually going through right now. It's actually keeping me up at night. And it's a small thing. It's not a small thing, but I think it's a common thing. I think many of us look back and all of us can say, oh, I regret something. Now, I know some people are better at just looking back and saying, you know what, I'm not going to let it bother me. I made a mistake. I'm human. And I get that. And I'm a person of faith, and I do lean heavily on that. And I think in the long term, I think I'm pretty healthy that way as far as mentally and spiritually and all of that. I think I've got a good handle on it. But as much as I would like to say that I'm over it, I'm okay, I'm not. I just read the book recently by Mel Robbins, Let Them. And, she talked a lot about the idea of letting them, but also letting me. And I remember years ago reading something that Joyce Meyer had written and talked about, and that was you've got to let people out of their box. Like she was talking about a conversation she had with her husband and how she wasn't letting him out of the box that she had placed him in of the expectations that she held for him. And I thought, you know what? I do that in so many ways with different people in my life and especially with myself. So I think this is a really good topic, and I thought I'm going to try to sit down and talk about this today and hopefully get through without coughing too much. So why do we hold on to regrets? Did you ever have those nights where you're lying in bed, like I did last night, minding your own business, and your brain just decides to throw out a memory from 15 years ago? Like, hey, remember that time you said something and totally embarrassed yourself? Let's relive that real quick. Like, that's what's happening to me. And so, it can keep you like stuck in this loop of what if I'd done something differently? And while it's normal to feel that way, the thing is, staying stuck in regret doesn't actually change anything. Learning from that though does change, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to learn from those things that I look back on that keep me awake at night. I just want to get the lesson and move on. I am holding my microphone. There's like this trend. Everybody's holding the microphone. And it kind of annoys me when I see trends and then I jump in on board and I'm like, oh, I'm going to hold my microphone. But this morning I was like clipping it to my shirt and it was like sagging. And I thought, I'm just going to hold my microphone. Hey, it's like in season, or it's in style, and I'm always late to jump on the trend bus. I am. I'm always late to the party. So I'm a little late in this one, but hey, it works. It's working really well. So we're just going to go with it today, real casual. Sometimes I think regret isn't even about what we did, it's about what we didn't do. Like the things we didn't say, the chances we didn't take, the moments we let slip by. And those can be even harder to move past. Now, there was a regret that really has taught me a lesson. And, it's one of my biggest struggles, really, has been dealing with this sort of relationship in my family. Someone I love, but who for a long time just made me feel like I had to constantly prove myself or fix things that weren't even mine to fix. And for years, I would just sort of twist myself into this knot, trying to keep the peace, trying to be the bigger person, and hoping they would see things differently, and it was exhausting. And no matter what I did or said, it wasn't enough, and the regret that came with that was brutal. And I kept thinking, if I just handled it differently, maybe things would be better. But over time, I started to realize something, and it was that this person's not going to change. And honestly, that wasn't even my job to do. It wasn't my job to change them. I had to set some boundaries and protect my peace and stand in my own power. So instead of carrying regret for all the time, I just am starting to let that go and shift my focus on what I have control of, like how I respond and how I take care of myself and how I decide what kind of energy I allow into my own life. And that shift has really helped. And it is helping so far. I mean, you can see I'm in the middle of it, so I'm still dealing with it. There was another regret that I carried for a long time, and it was just not speaking up for myself, like in this big decision, one that affected things, not just me, at other people. And there was just a time when I felt really strongly about a choice I wanted to make, but instead of standing my ground, I let other people's opinions push me in a different direction. And for a long time, I beat myself up over that. I kept thinking, well, why didn't I just trust myself? But you know what? Now I look back and I realize that not speaking up, then it actually taught me how important it is to be an advocate for myself now. And if I hadn't gone through that back then, I might not have had the confidence I have today to say, no, this isn't what's right for me. So even though I wished I'd handled it differently, I also know that that experience has shaped me and who I am. And that's the thing about regret is it can either weigh us down or it can help build us up into maybe a better version of ourselves. So I've learned to reframe some of my regrets. Like, how do you stop regrets from running the show? And here's what's helped me. First, I just shift from what if to what now. Regrets keep us looking backwards, but change happens when we focus on what we can do now. So instead of thinking, well, I should have done that, or I should have done things differently, ask myself, like, what can I learn from this? Can make a difference, and how can I handle things differently moving forward? That's what really helps me. And, giving myself the advice I would give to a friend. So if a friend came to me feeling terrible about a mistake they made, what would I tell them? Yeah, you should feel awful about that forever. No, of course I wouldn't say that to them. You'd probably say something like, you did your best. You did what you knew to do at the time. Learn from it and move on. So why not give myself that same grace? How about make just peace with who I was then? Hindsight is 2020. It's easy to look back knowing what we know now. Like, how could I have been so blind? But we weren't blind. At the time, I was just being me, and at that moment, it's what I knew. I was doing the best I could at the time. Now, the fact that we see things differently now means we've grown, and that's a really good thing. So the other thing is stop letting regrets hold you hostage. And one thing I've learned is regret is not an apology. You don't owe it to anyone, including yourself, to keep suffering over something that you can't control and you can't change. So feeling bad forever doesn't fix anything. But learning and growing and making different choices now, moving forward, that does make a difference, like a real difference. Also, find meaning in the mistake. Like, really, every time I look back at something I regret, I try to ask myself, what did this teach me? A lot of the things I once regretted, like decisions I made or relationships I held on to for too long, moments where I wasn't true to myself, those are the things that shaped who I am now. Would I go back and do things differently? If I had the chance, probably I would. But I wouldn't trade the lessons that they taught me. Regrets are just part of life, and we're all going to have them. But they don't have to define us. So if we use them as a tool for growth, they actually make us stronger. And the way I see it, regrets, well, they're like kind of old photographs, things that we can look back on and look back to and reflect and remember and learn from. But we don't have to live in them. We just take what we need and we just keep moving on. So I would love to hear from you. Have you ever turned a regret into a life lesson? Let us know in the comments. Let's chat about this. And if you like, conversations like this, be sure to like and subscribe. And I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Take good care, and I'll see you on the next one.